Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll be discussing the content negotiation mechanism one more time. The reason why I decided to come up with this video is because here I would like to talk to you about a manual workaround that exists in Spring that we can use to implement or deal with content negotiation. So with this, you will not only get to know about the overall usage, but also at the same time, you will gain a much better understanding around the implementation and effectiveness of both of these approaches. So as we have already seen the first approach in action in our previous video, here we will only be discussing about the second approach, where we will see how we can negotiate the content requirements without any additional configurations and relying totally on built-in mechanisms provided by Spring. So don't worry if you have missed the first part. I will provide a link of that video down in the description so that you can refer it at a later time as per your convenience. Also, I'll be providing you with the link of the GitHub project that we'll be using in our demo. So with this, I believe you are all covered and you'll be able to follow along with the rest of this video. At the very end, I'll be discussing a bit of the contrast between both of these approaches. So a quick comparison, I believe, is really important so that you get to know that which approach will be more suitable to you under which situations. So without wasting any further time, let's start with this video. So as you could see, I already have this project open. And in the employee controller class, I have these two endpoints. So first endpoint is a post mapping, which basically allows me to create the employee. The other is a get mapping that allows me to fetch the employee data with respect to a given ID. All right, so in the second approach, what we'll be doing is we'll try to utilize the existing property which are provided to us via Spring when it comes to the get mapping and request mapping annotations. So if you try to explore the get mapping, then if I show you, we have a bunch of other properties, and to control or to deal with content requirements, we have this produces property. So whenever we try to use the produces property, it basically signals Spring that this endpoint is expected to produce the data only that in that format which you specify here. So let's see how it works. So let me utilize the existing media type class. It has a bunch of constants that I can use. So suppose if I make this endpoint to provide me the data into the XML format, so for that what I can do is I can just use this produces and media type.application XML value. Just that, nothing much is required. So now if I try to just build this project and try to rerun it, let's see whether it works or not. Okay, so let's wait for a minute. All right, the build is almost complete. So let me just try to rerun it real quick. So far so good. All right, so my project is now up and running. Okay, my application is running. Let me go to Postman. Let me try to see what I'm getting. So earlier, this is what I was getting as a JSON data. Now let's see whether I'm getting anything or not. Surprisingly, you will see that I'm getting an internal server error. So why is that? So let's go back to IntelliJ and try to see what we have in the application logs. So if you go to the IntelliJ and we'll try to explore the application logs, you will see that when Spring tried to resolve the content type for this employee object with the given value, there are no suitable converters available. So when Spring tried to convert this employee object to this content type, Spring was not able to look up for any appropriate converters. So that's why the request has failed. So for that, what we need to do is we need to go to our pom.xml, just like what we did in our previous video. We have to add a new dependency that will allow Spring to convert the data into the XML format. So for that, let's go to dependencies and let's here add JSON data format.xml. The moment you type the artifact ID, IntelliJ is smart enough to look up for the corresponding group ID for you so that you don't have to type it. It's a very good feature from IntelliJ. So let me just try to rebuild the project one more time. And let me just reload it one more time to be sure that yes, all the dependencies are resolved. It's important. So this is also done. So let me try to read on it quickly and see whether it works this time or not. Let me just close this also. Alright, so my application is finally up and running with all the changes. So let me try to fetch this employee data one more time. Great. So now you see I am getting the data into XML format with just this line of change and the required dependencies in pom.xml. Isn't this easy? But you will ask me that now if I need data in JSON, what do I do? You're right, because the moment you did a change like that, you're in a way making this endpoint more restrictive. So in this way, this endpoint will no longer be able to generate the data into JSON. So that capability has been lost. So in order to do that, if you want to receive similar data in JSON, then what you need to do is you need to come up with a strategy. So from the solution, from what I see is that you need to come up with another controller and you need to do a bit of API versioning so that your one version will be serving data into JSON and the other version will be serving data using this produces property into XML. So let's try to quickly do that and let's see whether it works and how it works. So in the controller, let's try to add a new class. I will call it employee controller version 2. Just add it. Let me do this mapping. Let me make it add the request mapping also. Sorry. API slash v2 slash employee. I also need the dependency of employee service because I need to fetch the employee data from the database with the given ID. So I need this. Let me just add require constructor. Let's utilize Lombok library. So now I don't want to copy it because I already have this in place. So let me just copy and paste, save some time here. And I no longer require this produces tag here in my v1. So let me just click on this highlighted part. This is basically telling me that there's a change on this line. So let me just roll back. I don't want any change. So let me just try to rebuild the project one more time with all these new controllers. Alright, so everything is built. Let me rerun. Alright, so the application is up and running now. So let me go back to my Postman and try to fetch data with the v1. So if I try to click send, I should get data in JSON. So this is what is expected. Nice. Now let me go and see whether the new versioning of the API is providing me the data into XML. Perfect. As we can see now, we are getting data into XML with the new version of our API, and we already have an older version of the API in place, which is capable of generating the data in JSON format. So we are all covered. Okay, so for the clients who need data in XML, we can simply supply them with the version 2 of the API, and the clients who require data into v1, they can still consume the old data with the version 1 of the API. So now with that, I believe we are already there where we want to be. So now it's time to have a quick comparison between both of these approaches, and let's discuss which one will be more suitable under which circumstances. So let's quickly open IntelliJ and discuss a bit around that. Alright, so before we discuss what we have done in the version 2, let's quickly recap what we have done in the first approach. Alright, so let me first try and open this interface which is called WebMVC configurer. So if you all able to recall that we have used this WebMVC configurer interface during our first approach. So what we did was we created our own configuration class and have that class implemented this WebMVC configurer interface, and later that we have overrided this configure content negotiation method and supply our own custom configuration to deal with our future content negotiation requirements, okay, with the help of a parameter value. So if you see overall, this approach was very flexible and also very easy to implement, okay, because it requires very less coding. Whereas on the other hand, this approach requires more coding and we cannot directly substitute this property in our existing controllers, because the moment you try to do that, the existing capability of generating data in JSON will be lost forever. So that's why we decided to come up with a strategy to have a new version of the API altogether and provided a new endpoint to the client which can handle the new content type. So overall, it's a good way of providing client and dealing with such requirements in case you do not have such capability in place. What I mean by that is, if you see, the Web Embassy Configurer class was introduced in version 3.1. So if you're working with an older version of Spring, you might not have this capability in place. So in such cases, the existing versioning approach will be more suitable. So I hope this was useful to you all. So before I take a leave, I request you all to kindly like and especially comment and consider subscribing to my channel. So see you soon. Take care and happy learning, everyone.